All right. Hi, my name is Will, and welcome to the video course on time travel. So let's begin. First off, time travel is not like the movies or what you might think. It's not this fantasy ride where everything just works out. In reality, it's a lot crazier than you think. So let's get to some initial pointers to time travel that you have to know. First off, it's very important when you're traveling into the past to make sure you don't get killed immediately. Okay, so first things first. If you go too far into the past, people aren't going to just be, very normal. They're not going to just let you explain yourself and tell them, "Oh, I'm this." Guess what? Especially back then, people are very primitive and so forth, and they will shoot you on the spot. They'll think you're an alien, they'll think whatever, and they'll shoot you and kill you. They don't have to be rational, they don't have to be reasonable. There is no equality. Racism is common at the time. So you can imagine all sorts of other stuff that goes on. Rape, murder, horrible stuff. So don't be surprised if you get shot on the spot as soon as you land when you time travel. Which brings us to the second point. It's very important to get right the time and location of where you're going, because let's say you don't map out the location of where that exactly was when you get there, and you end up landing in a volcano or just in the middle of a lake and you drown, or you get melted alive, or you end up in, I don't know, you go back in time and it happens to be a mountain or a wall then, and you die because there's stuff there. So you get the point. You can't just not think things through. You have to realize that landscapes change, places change, and so forth. So you have to be cognizant of where you end up. If, for instance, you started in a parking lot and then you go back and you're in the middle of who knows what, a KKK rally or God knows what, that's going to be a huge issue. Heck, even landing in the middle of a farm, that's not a good idea, because guess what? They don't know who you are. They're going to shoot you. They think you're an alien or something, especially with whatever you have, any type of technology. So get it right. Now, as far as butterfly effect and stuff like that goes, people ask, well, what if I, mess with the past? If I mess with the past, it will affect my future, and I might end up, doing something horrible, like marrying my great grandmother and therefore preventing my own existence and causing a temporal loop that doesn't make sense. How do I avoid that? Well, here's the thing. That sort of stuff doesn't actually exist. It's not like you have to avoid tampering with the past. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to hide and be on the down low, and therefore I won't bump into anyone important and nothing will change. That's not exactly how it works. It may work in the movies like that, but in reality, turns out even the smallest little thing will burst out into the future. It's the butterfly effect. And what that means is, just by your very existence in the past, because of your time travel, you have already shifted the future drastically, propelling you into an alternate universe. Now, that may be hard to grasp, but just think of it like this. Just by you being in a place, even if you don't do anything else, you don't talk to anyone, just by your very existence, you're pushing atoms into orientations in areas that were not there before. For instance, right now you're passing some horrible bad breath and all sorts of hormones and chemicals and odors that may be slight to you, but actually represent millions of atoms into the atmosphere, thus affecting all sorts of things around you. And that might not seem like a big deal, but those things affect everything. So, long story short, let me give you an example. A pedal on the floor, maybe destroyed or pushed in a slightly different orientation, could affect someone being inspired in a different way, and thus writing a book or letter in a different way than they would have, thus creating a different book that might impact 10 people or a million people. Even if it impacts just 10 people, those 10 people can then therefore be affected by the book, maybe talk about it differently, recommend it to different people, change the course of their life just a slight bit, maybe a different job, or a small thing. It just burgeons out like crazy until eventually you've affected the entire world, causing all sorts of crazy stuff on the other side of the world that you wouldn't have thought. So, what am I saying by all this? By your very existence in the past, through time travel, you've already dramatically affected the future. Now, there's different types of time travel. One is just changing the past immediately and forming a parallel universe with a alternate future line, and the other is just staying in the same thing and causing some sort of warp in the natural timeline. It depends what universe you're on. Let's not get too technical here. The point is just realize this whole thing about avoiding people is just stupid. You can't trust the movies here. Okay, so now that we have that covered, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the Hitchhiker's Guide to Traveling in the Future. So here's the basic idea. If you travel into the future, that's a weird thing in and of itself. So ultimately, long story short, logically, it doesn't really ever make sense, any of this time travel, if you think about it. Because guess what? If it could work, someone just travel into the past, find out how they made a lot of money, and pretty much continuously do things until in an infinite loop until they've perfected and mastered everything in life, become immortal, learned everything about the world, become infinitely rich, and all sorts of madness. So ultimately, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Time travel, it wouldn't make sense, and there's all sorts of plot holes and fallacies. You killing your own mother. So how does that actually work? And what's the point of me bringing this up if it theoretically cannot exist, and yet here we are giving a course about it? Well, let's not overcomplicate it. This is a beginner course. The basic idea, though, is just when you go to the future, try to just enjoy it. Okay, don't think too much about all this crap going on. It'll just give you a headache, and it's not going to help you. If you go there, though, realize that times have changed. Things might shock you. Of course, if you prepare for it, that could be for the better. Usually, the changes are not what you expect, and probably, underwhelming in certain ways, maybe overwhelming in others. And guess what? Some things, that old grandpa who's always stuck in his old ways? Yeah, you might be that guy when you travel to the future. You may still look young, but, guess what? Customs change. So it's going to be really weird and strange in certain ways. Just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about going deep into the future. So if you go into the future far enough, you get into this whole strange place, depending on where your civilization is at. Okay, so if you're a normal civilization, many of you die out. So don't be surprised to see some type of dead rock in place of your planet. However, if you're one of those who luck out, perhaps you're one of those who goes into this, galactic or universal state, and that's on a whole completely different level. That stuff will, overwhelm you to a certain extent, especially if you saw the shit out there on other planets and what the hell they're doing. It's beyond the human mind. There's more planets out there than you could ever visit in your entire lifetime. Even if you visit a new one every single second, just to check out the whole thing. And I mean, heck, each planet on its own's super fun. You could probably spend your lifetime on there learning about all the customs and norms and weird natural resources and stuff. So the point is, just have fun. Don't let it overwhelm you. Keep it simple. Do your thing, and it's all a good time. So yeah, that's the intro course in a nutshell. Hopefully you took some notes and have a blast.